Where is, that's what I'm missing. Ralph Balderas, good morning. Hello, Ralph. You're the first one I see. There are 4 people in here, but it's all about you, Ralph. Good morning. Here we come. Tracy Bogert, the president of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans and coronavirus deniers. Woo! Here we go. Foamfoot 420, a.k.a. Amber. Welcome. Hector Gomez. What up, Hector?
Now, Chris Duel.
Oh, yeah. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas on this winter solstice, December 21st, the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year, the beginning of winter, and praise Tom Landry, after today, the days will begin to get longer again, and we can make our way towards spring. We can make our way towards summer. We can get rid of these days when it gets dark at 5:30 at night. Not that I'm bitter. Chris Duel show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and special soundscape stylist Dave Ayler. And Shannon, a special show for us today because the three of us, the three Shonettes, if Bill Schoening ever takes us on the road, we will be his pips and background singers and special dancers. But for you, Shannon, for me, and for the lovely and talented Dave Ayler, this is our final show together in 2021. Hard to believe.
That is really hard to believe. There's only 10 days left this year of
2021,
which is again super strange. But
I'm here for it.
I'm here to enjoy it. Want to soak
each
in every moment with the
both of you.
Let's get started.
Tuesday.
Soak it in.
Soak it in. Dave Ayler on this winter solstice on the. I mean, God knows how many shows you did in 2021 with Shannon and me, and here it is. This is like the Beatles rooftop concert. This is like we're getting the band together one more time. We're going up to the rooftop. We're gonna sing "Don't Bring Me Down," and 2 of us, although there's 3 of us, and I if this is the Beatles rooftop concert, there's only 3. So the question is, who's Paul? Who's George? Who's Ringo? Who's John? And who is Billy Preston? Actually, we got 2 guests on the show. Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. So she could either be Ringo or Billy Preston, or Andy Everett going to join us direct from Frisco, Texas this morning, where UTSA will play in the Frisco Bowl tonight against San Diego State. So we do have the full complement if we say that Andy and Taylor are in the band as well.
I think Andy would be Ringo.
Yeah.
He's definitely Ringo.
I think so. Thank you. I'd have to go John because he's my favorite Beatle. So the two of you would have to fight over Paul and George, pretty much, or Billy Preston.
Billy Preston had a lot of talent. I'll take Billy.
We're getting really deep
into this.
Yeah, I love Billy Preston. God, many call him the fifth Beatle.
Some of the best hair in rock and roll.
Woo! Very, very cool. So Shannon, if I'm a little punchy this morning, more than usual, I'm usually punchy most mornings. And again, I'm on a Spurs high. There was a late night West Coast Spurs game, but the Spurs kicked the Clippers' butts last night. It was never close last night other than tip-off. The only thing I wish is that number 2 of the Clippers, who is number 2 in more ways than one, who I will forgive and bury the hatchet and never disparage again after 2/2/2022, because it's this hatred that I feel for him, this sports hatred is not good for the soul. Kawhi Leonard. Of course, obviously, he's not playing yet this season with one. Thank you. With one of his many injuries. But Kawhi, the Spurs get the last laugh last night. Spurs annihilate the Clippers 116-92. And Shannon, you might go, 116-92. That's not really annihilate. Spurs were up by 30 in the fourth quarter with 9:47 to play. It was 101-71. The spread was 30. Adios, amigos. Spurs have won 2 out of 3 on the road. And as Meatloaf tells us, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
A fantastic win. Again, I think Spurs are proving a lot of the analytic people prior to the season saying they're not going to win a whole lot. I think they've won a few games that most would expect them to drop, and then they're handling teams like the Clippers that I think they should be handling anyway, especially without Kawhi Leonard. And I mean, no, everyone loves early Christmas gifts. Why not?
Yes.
Why not sprinkle in a few Spurs wins here and there?
And in the last couple of weeks, Spurs have won on the road at Golden State. This week they won on the road at Utah, on the road at Clippers. Even without Kawhi was pretty impressive last night. Paul George, they got a lot of firepower still on that team, and it's in their house. Now the Spurs stay in LA for the next couple of days. They take on Thursday night LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. So head assistant, a little Freudian slip. Assistant coach Becky Hammond. I almost called her head coach. I wonder if that was 2022 speaking through me on this winter solstice. Assistant coach Becky Hammond talking to our good friend Bill Schoening, who will be on the show tomorrow with you and Paul Alexander, Shannon. But after the game, she said, hey, we've had big wins against very good teams. She said, we're going to hang out in LA for a couple of days, get ready for LeBron James and the Lakers. And she said, we're going to go out there and try to get the win. So, the Spurs, I think after winning on the floor of the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Draymond Green on the floor and everybody but Klay Thompson on the floor for the Warriors, who have the best record in the NBA, winning there, winning at Utah, winning last night at Staples Center, and being able to stay there, Shannon, for the next 3 nights before Thursday night to get ready for the Lakers. I think that all benefits the Spurs. I think they have no fear of any team. And I'm looking forward to Thursday night to see if the Spurs can knock off LeBron James and the Lakers.
And is LeBron playing?
He is, and he's been playing well lately. Yes. He was out for a while. He's been back for about the last week or two, and he's playing. He's scoring like 26 points a game. Yeah.
Go beat him up. Make him want to have some load management time off.
Yeah, it's actually Anthony Davis who's out of the lineup currently. With some issues. Want to give a shout out, Shannon. We are international once again on the live video feed. I see not only Ofa Lin, who joins us from Singapore, and we love, and Ofa's a huge Spurs fan, joins us often for Spurs React after the games, but also Taro Kotani from Tokyo this morning. And for, I imagine in Singapore and in Japan, it's probably afternoon or evening over there, but a shout out to everybody on the live video feed, in particular, Ofa Lin from Singapore, Taro from Tokyo. Taro, the greatest international Spurs fan ever, who will be coming back to San Antonio, we do believe, in 2022, COVID willing. speaking of COVID, Shannon, my God, the NHL shutting down early. More and more NBA players, NFL players, NHL players coming down with COVID and this Omicron variant. It's man, again, we thought maybe we'd be done with this, certainly in sports, by 2021. And as you mentioned, we're on the cusp of 2022. But COVID having a big impact. And I was talking with Michael Bartlett last night on the Spurs broadcast, and he says, just wait. It won't be long till the NBA is going to, at this rate, have to shut it down for a while. So, but it's a little crazy. Here we have 2 Tuesday night football games tonight in the NFL because they had to be postponed because of COVID.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think I'm in the boat with a lot of people that I thought we were not past COVID specifically, but kind of past these necessities of postponing games or canceling games or just pausing a season for more than expected. The NHL, as you mentioned, and shout out to us for talking NHL for 2 consecutive days in a row on the Chris Duel
We're
show.
all about the hockey on this show. We love hockey.
They tend to have a little bit of a holiday break, and and I think it was announced yesterday that a few teams decided that they would just postpone things and go ahead and start that break early. And then the announcement came down that the NHL as a whole would take that break. I think given the circumstances, it's the responsible choice. And I'm sure as players, they can't be too upset about it being around the holidays, right? That'll give them time to be home with their families and be on the road a little bit less. But it'll be interesting if it does happen with the NBA. They're obviously in the middle of their season, and the NFL, they've got that Super Bowl is on the schedule. There's plenty of planning and things that go into it. Makes it really hard to move around. They said prior to the season that if a team was unable to play due to COVID, that game would just be it'd be a forfeit, right? And instead this week we see games being moved to Monday. Obviously the Browns, I think they only had 1 player come off of that COVID list that was available last night. Baker Mayfield, even the head coach, still unavailable. They end up getting the loss. So it really is crazy to be here at this moment again and seeing all of these things happen. I just hope that what we're seeing right now is as bad as it will get, and things will go back to whatever that new normal was that we were kind of already in and experiencing.
And along those lines, I'm happy for the Las Vegas Raiders, who really felt screwed over the weekend because they were ready to play on their, I think that was going to be a Saturday game.
Yeah.
And the Cleveland Browns had all those players out, and the Raiders said, hey, we're ready. And the Browns, the NFL said, oh, the Browns have too many players out. We'll just move that to Monday. So it was a road game for the Raiders. Yeah. So it was just very inconvenient and wrong for the Raiders. So they get the win yesterday at Cleveland, 16-14. So good for them. And I've even heard that last night the Chicago Bears were missing a lot of players. They had to play the Vikings last night on the regularly scheduled Monday Night Football game. And apparently the Bears asked the NFL, hey, can we postpone this one? And they said, no, you're the Bears. You suck. We don't care.
You're going to lose
we need a Monday night game. Yeah. And they did. And the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, the only primetime wins he has in his career are against the Bears. Vikings 17, Bears 9. Now, one thing I want to point out about tonight, Shannon, and I saw somebody tweet about this. You got 2 NFL games tonight. Seahawks at the Rams, 6 o'clock on Fox. Washington football team at the Eagles, also 6 o'clock. How is that on Fox also? I don't even know. But that's what I have in front of me. Obviously, that's got to be a mistake. But you know who gets screwed tonight in a big way, Shannon? UTSA. For the longest time we've been saying, hey, the Frisco Bowl, it's a standalone bowl game. There is no other college game or bowl game on that Tuesday night, December 21st. There's no NFL, obviously, on a Tuesday night. And I mean, no matter what you got, if you're the NHL, if you're college football, if you got a great sitcom, you don't go up against the NFL because people are going to watch the NFL. I was talking with Charlie Parker, who works down the hall at 1200 WOAI and is a big football and UTSA fan. If I didn't have a dog in this fight, UTSA versus San Diego State. I mean, name two other schools, and one of them's from outside the state of Texas. Let's say if it was UAB. Let's say Western Kentucky beat UTSA in the Conference USA Championship game, and somehow this Frisco Bowl was San Diego State versus Western Kentucky, and I had the option tonight to either watch Seahawks Rams and or Washington versus the Eagles, or Frisco Bowl, San Diego State versus Western Kentucky. I'm watching NFL football, and sadly for UTSA, I think the rest of the nation, except for us, is going to be watching NFL football.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, and I didn't make that connection until you just brought it up there. And you know, the NFL, they've got a grip on their fans and on anyone who cares about football. I mean, Washington tonight playing the Eagles, but they're going to be a depleted team due to their COVID outbreak, but I'll still tune in and want to see some of that. And then, of course, Seahawks versus Rams, I think typically would be a spectacular matchup, but given what the Seahawks have yet to be able to accomplish this season and their struggles, and the Rams, you know, I think they're definitely the more exciting of the two teams, but given that they're up against the Seahawks in the way that they're playing right now, they're not necessarily marquee games, but it's still the NFL and people are still going to tune in.
Yeah, I was listening, and I don't know if I believe this or not, Shannon, but on our air yesterday, Doug Gottlieb on the Doug Gottlieb show on Fox Sports Radio said, he was talking about how the NFL makes all of its money, and you know they like to just get more money and rake it in. He said the NFL is going to be paying very close attention, and I know we did this a little bit last season as well. But the Tuesday night games in December, which we have tonight, as you mentioned, Rams hosting Seahawks, Eagles hosting Washington. The NFL, he believes, is going to, if this goes well tonight, ratings wise, and a lot of people home, a lot of people already beginning their vacation. So maybe a lot of eyes tuning in tonight. You know, this could be a wave of the future. We got Thursday night football. We got Monday night football. In December, at this time, we got Saturday NFL and Sunday NFL. Get ready maybe for some Tuesday or Wednesday NFL football.
Listen, I think for people like you and I, that is the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal, something that we'd love to see, right? Because they're just Tuesdays and Wednesdays during the regular season. It just kind of feel empty at times. But I think players, you know, obviously a lot of them were disgruntled with that extra game that's been added on this year, more time. And then, you know, you look at the Browns, they just played last night. Obviously they were going to play Saturday. Game got moved to Monday. They're on the schedule to play Saturday afternoon of this weekend on Christmas Day. So they've got an even shorter week, having moved that last game. So I don't think it's going to happen without a fight, or you know, maybe some more Twitter wars between players and the NFL before it happens. But as a fan, I am absolutely here for it.
Yes, as we say, more football is good football. And if you're going to give me NFL football every day of the week, I am there for that. All right. Lots to talk about on this winter solstice. Shortest day of the year, longest night of the year. Our last show together tomorrow. Coach A, Paul Alexander, going to be in with Shannon doing the show. Shannon then goes on her vacation. I'll be back on Thursday and much of next week as well. So our final show together, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have fun with you. Hello to everybody on the live video feed. You can join us on the phone lines throughout the morning as well. 800-707-9760. We're talking NFL football. Of course, Dallas Cowboys. Major injury for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a major setback for them that we will get into. College football, college bowl games. Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7 at 8:05. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA football, at 8:35. We'll talk NBA hoops. We'll talk college hoops and a whole lot more. High Five play of the day is next. She's Shannon, Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler making the whole show go. I'm Chris with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Louisa, it is on ESPN. I don't know. You may have to pay for ESPN, but I saw that Sam Tobias mentioned that. Tracy Bogert says Dallas has done something no other team in the NFL has done this year. They played 3 consecutive road games, winning all 3 in the month of December. Yeah, Tracy, we talked about that yesterday, and the Cowboys have not done that since 1969, which is pretty cool. Okay, I now have to edit some spots. So let me see something here. And I've got a mouse on this computer that is ornery at best. Let me see what I can do here. Let's see, I got to go up. All right, so I'm going to go in order here. And you are correct, John Williams, at the stroke of midnight. Actually, the other way around. Dave Ayler will change to Jeremy Kolak. Let's see here. I got to do this now. Steve Duraco in the house. Steve Duraco is going to be on Thursday. Let me see if I get my days straight. Yeah, Thursday I'm doing a remote at the Twin Peaks at Park North. I believe it's from 3 to 5. And Steve Duraco, The Rock, is going to come out there and join me, which is very cool. Thursday, Twin Peaks, Park North, location 3 to 5. Oh, we're giving away like front row Spurs tickets at that remote, which is cool. So if you're in the neighborhood, come on out. Luisa, it is not on ESPN Plus. It is on ESPN, standard ESPN. Tonight, 6:30 kickoff, UTSA, San Diego State. All right, I got 2 more of these things to edit. Let's see. Now I need that one. Oh, okay. Now what just happened? That's not good. Let's do this. Come on. Jason, cool. Jason will come out. Yeah, Luisa, standard ESPN tonight. I'm glad you get to see it. Okay, I got one more edit here if I have time. Let's see, this one. And there's a mistake here, isn't it? Or the website, thebigbib.com, and get in there. You're going to absolutely love it. It is awesome barbecue. Austin Highway and Lanark, the Big Bib Bar. So glad I can edit. When I screw it up, audio editing is a beautiful thing. There we go. Like it never happened. Oh my God, this one's way too long. Steve Duraco, good morning. Here we go.
Back. It's the Chris This Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Welcome back. Thanks for hanging out with us on this winter solstice, December 21st, 2021, the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year, the official beginning of winter. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And Shannon, you know me. Dave, you know me. I like summertime. I like warm temperatures. I like sunshine. I like long days by the pool with an adult beverage or 6. So kind of a holiday for me after today. This is like the days were getting shorter. Oh my God, it gets dark at 5:30 at night. Help me. And now after today, the days get longer. We get closer to springtime, and fiesta, and summer, and pools, and beer.
But you can't complain about it being almost 80 degrees here in San Antonio on Christmas Day. It's going to be close to 80.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about that.
No complaints there. Absolutely not. And we even have some Christmas Day NFL football. So as God intended. So very cool.
Good barbecue on Christmas Day.
Woo!
That'd be awesome.
That would be. Speaking of barbecue tomorrow, Shannon, on the show, Paul Alexander is a big barbecue aficionado, and he's from Lockhart, Texas originally. He was a wide receiver. Yeah, there you go. He was a wide receiver for the Lockhart Lions back in the day, and I think he's willing to throw down with anybody who dares say there's any better barbecue created outside of Lockhart, Texas. Although he's fair. He's a connoisseur. I think he appreciates. I mean, I was at and they're a huge sponsor. I was at the Big Bib Barbecue over the weekend. Enjoyed their big old brisket plate and some potato salad and green beans and an adult beverage or 2. And the brisket at Big Bib Barbecue just melts in your mouth. It's delicious. So I think Paul would. Good. Yes, barbecue's a beautiful thing, and that's very. You know what? It's like in Texas, and I know in San Antonio, Shannon, tamales are a big deal. And it's amazing. Different tamale places around San Antonio. As Christmas gets closer, you'll see like lines of people buying tamales for Christmas. Is that in Austin? Does that happen in Austin as well?
I don't know about giant lines. I do know, I think we just got a new tamale spot that is actually from San Antonio. I'll have to double check that, but they kind of opened right in time because I do, like HEB has their tamales too that I think are pretty fantastic.
Yes.
I love a good tamale, but I love a good tamale any time of year. It doesn't have to be just around Christmas for me. I'll take a tamale any day of the week.
Good point. And as they are a Christmas tradition, I think barbecue needs to. I mean, in Texas, get some barbecue going for Christmas.
My family has done Franklin's barbecue brisket, like the entire brisket. We've done that twice, and that was delicious and. Not so nutritious, but super delicious. Speaking of delicious, apparently the San Antonio tamale place is called Delicious Tamales.
Oh my God, they're huge. Yeah, they're one of the big brands in San Antonio.
Yeah, those are really good tamales.
They're in Austin.
They're in Austin now.
Yeah, they are one of those places every Christmas in December. Yeah, Shannon, they're one of the places that has the long lines out the door and around the building. People just love delicious tamales. So yeah, you'll have to try some. So a quick shout out.
36.
Yes. A quick shout out to on the live video feed. I mentioned Ofa Lynn's joining us from Singapore this morning. Taro Kotani, the greatest international Spurs fan, joining us from Tokyo, Japan. Well, let's add Africa and Kenya to the list this morning. Our good friend Christopher Smith just wrote, I am in Kisumu, Kenya, on Lake Victoria. How cool. I've never been to Africa, much less Kenya, Shannon. I'm guessing being on Lake Victoria in Kenya has got to be a very, very cool, picturesque thing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And, sir, I think that's a fantastic lead-in for today's High Five. what you just did right there. And I know you did it on purpose.
Let's do it.
Good on you, sir.
That was. See, I stumble into segues sometimes. Woo! It is time for the high five play of the day. And if you are listening or watching on this high five, you want to pay close attention for a certain reason that you're about to find out. The high five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. I am willing to trade a Las Palapas from San Antonio to Austin to get a high five down here. But in the meantime, if you're around Austin or if you want to make the pilgrimage from anywhere across Texas, get to one of the 2 Austin area high fives. They got everything you're looking for. Big screen TVs, watch all the sports you want to watch. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, gazillion games you can play, from bowling, upper deck, 2 levels of bowling you can play, zombie dodgeball to be discussed at some point, axe throwing, laser tag, you name it, they got it at High Five. Shannon, who's getting the high five or high fives plural this morning?
Chris, this is our last show together prior to the new year. I will be going on vacation after Wednesday's show, and you are you've got some business to attend to this evening, so you're taking tomorrow off. So this is it for us in 2021. Woo. It's been a spectacular year. We started this show together just over a year ago, and I think it's grown tremendously. And that's all in part to those who listen, to those who watch, to those who join us each and every morning, be it live or via the podcast, which is available on so many different platforms. Anyone who's ever tweeted at us or followed us on the Instagrams or hit us up on Facebook, all of the things, we really, really do appreciate it. I mean, Chris just ran through. We've got people all over the world, which is just insane to me. And we appreciate you guys so much, from those that are tuning in from halfway across the world to those that may just be across the street from our respective stations. This is how Chris and I get to make a living, and it's pretty darn cool, but we only get to do it because people like you tune in. So today our high five goes to everyone who's tuned in, even for just a second. Even if it was just a second, Chris, where they were, and then they decided to tweet at us like me specifically, you sound like a boring piece of white bread. I appreciate you, and a high five, because that listen goes a long way as far as the bosses are concerned.
Well, and they tweet at me as well, and often it's concise. Some of the tweets are, "You suck!" So I appreciate all the tweets. Point. Whoa, yeah, you suck. Robert Browning, speaking of international viewers, Robert Browning joining us from Tokyo this morning. And Shannon, I can't agree with you more. You know, we do this show for everybody, and whether you're a casual listener or, you know, I'm looking at some names like Robert Browning and Christopher Smith and Luisa Alanis, Steve Duraco, John Williams from the Dallas area. It's so cool. Foamfoot 420, Amber. If I said all the names, Ralph Balderas, Tracy Bogert, we would run out of segment. So you know who you are. And we tend to, on the live video feed, especially give you a shout out. At some point throughout the morning, we say hello to you. And we give shout outs on the radio as well, Shannon. We've had so many people throughout the year saying, hey, today's my birthday, or today is my son's birthday or my daughter's birthday. And ultimately, while we have a blast talking about sports in the morning on the radio, for Shannon, for Dave Ayler, for me, for Jeremy when he's in here, it's just fun hanging out with friends. And it is kind of like hanging out at a sports bar, even though it's early in the morning and we're not necessarily drinking yet, although I'm open to it. Throw some Kahlua in my coffee. But it's the fun for me is the friendship, is the interaction, is the disagreements when we disagree. That's part of the fun about sports as well. It's like if we all agreed, that would be pretty boring. So, you know, sometimes Shannon will say something, I'll say something, Dave will say something that you will absolutely disagree with. And first thing in the morning, Shannon, as you know, having worked with me for over a year now, often my caffeine is not kicked in, so I will screw something up. And what I love about our listeners and viewers is they're very quick to go, you got that wrong. The UTSA game's on ESPN tonight. So I always appreciate the accurate information when I screw something up, which I try not to, but it's inevitable now and then.
It's a family vibe. for sure. And it's my favorite 3 hours of the day. I mean, I'm such a homebody, and then you throw COVID on top of it. There's really no one in the office when I come here. It's the same 3 people every day, and I enjoy them. But compared to what it used to be, it's just not the same. There's days that I come in here and I talk on this microphone for 3 hours, and I'm talking to Lord knows how many thousands of people. No one's necessarily talking back at me other than you, Chris, and Dave and Jeremy. And I go home and I'm like, wait a minute, that was my social interaction for the day. Now what? So it's, best 3 hours of my day. And we hope that it's yours as well. Then we can make you laugh, make you cry, make you feel something. Sports sports unrelated. We very much, again, appreciate anyone and everyone who's given a listen to the show. Tell your friends.
Sure do. And tell your friends. Yes, we would love more people to become involved. And, we're always looking for the show to be ever evolving as we move into 2022. If you got any ideas, we're open. If you got an idea and we like it, it makes the show better, we'll do it. One more cool thing, and Robert Browning, and we've mentioned this before, in 2022, he is in Japan. He is going to climb Mount Fuji. He's made the attempt before, and weather has gotten bad. Mount Fuji is one of the tallest mountains in the world. You can kind of see it from all over Japan. He is going to climb Mount Fuji. He is going to plant a Spurs flag because he's a Spurs fan. And he says now on video, he's going to give us a shout out from the top of Mount Fuji. And obviously we will play the audio of that over the radio, and we'll show the video on the live video feed. But that's just what's part of what's so cool. And you mentioned, Shannon, to meet people like Robert and Taro Kotani and everybody else who we have met in real life. You haven't met Taro yet, but you will. Here is a guy from Tokyo, Japan, who is a Spurs fan. And if it were not for radio or sports, because he's a Spurs fan, he travels to San Antonio. I've hung out with Taro. I've eaten barbecue at a barbecue joint with Taro. And to me, that's one of the cool things about sports. And you bond with family members, you bond with friends over sports. You argue if you've got different teams. Dave Ayler's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so we'll give him some crap about that when possible. When Pittsburgh is up and the Cowboys are down, he'll give us some crap. So it's fun. It's fun. It's cool. So yes, I second that emotion. Shout out to everybody listening right now and everybody who has listened in 2021. We do appreciate it. Woo!
That's so
woo! Yeah.
Robert, if you wanted to plant a Mavs flag up there too, I wouldn't hate it.
Oh, come on.
You
Shannon,
might hate it, but I wouldn't hate it.
We're still trying to convert you. We're trying to get this Mavs fan thing. Well, and you can still be. And here's what's weird, because now you're on the radio in San Antonio, Shannon. Yeah. And I found this out when I was in Los Angeles. I was always a Spurs fan. Nobody's going to change that. But it's like the Lakers, and I know this will sound like blasphemy to a lot of Spurs fans, but when I lived in Los Angeles from like 1981 to 1993, Lakers are on TV every night when they were playing, the Dodgers in baseball, the LA Rams, the LA Express of the USFL. That's how old I am. Get off my lawn. And it's like the town that you're, in that case, I was living in or working in, and you wind up just paying more attention to them. And when you learn more about a team, Shannon, we talked about this yesterday. I'm watching, and now you are, on HBO, Hard Knocks in season with the Indianapolis Colts. It's like Carson Wentz. I used to not like that guy. It's like, and watching him and his wife and having the baby, it's like, man, I like Carson Wentz. Frank Reich, I didn't like him many years ago when he beat the Houston Oilers in the playoffs. Greatest comeback ever when Jim Kelly got knocked out and Frank Reich was the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Now watching him and getting to know him as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, the more you learn about anybody, and maybe they're in sports, maybe they're not, unless they're Urban Meyer, you tend to like them. The more you get to know them and the more you tend to pull for them. So anyway, so someday you might, let me ask you this, Shannon, since in the last year, are you more of a Spurs fan, about the same, or less of a Spurs fan? Because you went to a game not long ago.
I would say I'm absolutely more of a Spurs fan. I mean, growing up, I felt like everyone just bandwagoned onto the Spurs, right? That's when the big three were there, so they were having plenty of success. It made it easy. Location was great. I was like, I'm a Mavs fan. My mom's from Dallas. That's what makes sense for me. I'm going to stick to it. But I had a lot of friends who would throw, Spurs championships in my face, and so kind of like, that was obviously them doing that, not the team itself. But having been a part of this show and talking to Bill every week, who's obviously associated with the Spurs. Bill is an incredible human being. I mean, it just those little pieces and having gone to the game and had such a wonderful experience with one of the attendants in AT&T Center and had a great time at the game itself. I can't hate on him in the ways I used to. It's a little annoying,
progress,
but
we're making progress. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention this. In the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to give away a pair of Valero Alamo Bowl tickets. So I went through the whole 6 o'clock hour almost without mentioning that. Valero Alamo Bowl tickets given away in the 8 o'clock hour. Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. Andy Everett. He'll have the call of the Frisco Bowl tonight, UTSA versus San Diego State. He's going to join us at 8:35. Big 7 o'clock hour. Shannon's Salty Shakedown on a winter solstice. Sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Dave Ayler making the show go. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and me with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Thank you, Robert Browning. I just vomited in my mouth. All right. Lucinda Sullivan with the coffee emoji. Good morning. Lucinda is an Indianapolis Colts fan, and I must say, and I highly recommend, it's so well done. If you got HBO or HBO Max, or if you know someone who does, if you can go to their place or borrow their passcode, Hard Knocks in-season Indianapolis Colts is very well done. Very, very well done. Let me see something here. Okay. I am going to get some more ice, and actually I'm going to get some coffee. Ice for my Gold Peak tea. Oh, by the way, West Coast Spurs game last night. Show you how much sleep I got, according to Fitbit. I'm actually not as crushingly tired as I should be. Here's my sleep last night. I don't know if you can see it. 2 hours and 38 minutes. 2 hours and 38 minutes of sleep last night. Thank you, Spurs. But the Spurs won. So it's okay. I'm not as bitter as I would be. I got no Mike Taylor to fill in. So I'll give you a photo to look. There is Taylor Estes in that photo. Dave Ayler. That's an older one, but it is a Taco Tuesday photo because I love tacos. Back in a sec. right. Let's see what else is happening here. Tomorrow on the show, he won't be on the phone. He'll be in studio.
We'll do those football highlights this next time.
Yeah, you got them for both games?
Yeah. You want to do Raiders first and then Vikings?
Yes, let's do that.
On ESPN, which is where Bears Robert Quinn went off on the officiating on last night's game.
Okay.
Apparently Matt Nagy got a flag thrown at him for arguing a call.
Wow, okay.
That's on ESPN.
Okay. Thank you. That is very nice of you, Louisa. Let me see here. I got all kinds of spots I have to edit this morning. So, okay, I did Big Bib Barbecue. Now I've got I'm going to go in order here. 2, 3, and that's it. Okay. Chris here for the Clean Crisp tape. Chris here, great. All right. Let's see. I've got. Good morning, Beth Settle. What is up, Beth? Robert, I see your a long paragraph. I haven't had a chance to. I just looked at it. Now we're back. I'll have to look at that again here in a minute. But thank you. I'll check that out. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to the football gods on high who look down upon us from football heaven and shower football blessings upon us, giving us not one but two Monday night football games, giving us two NFL Tuesday night football games, although that kind of screws over UTSA, who would have been a standalone Frisco Bowl tonight for all of us football-hungry Americans and citizens of the world. We would have sat down to our football feast tonight, and our only choice on the menu would have been UTSA versus San Diego State in the Frisco Bowl on the four-letter network. But no, COVID had to rear its ugly head once again in 2021. And while, Shannon, this is one of the only times you and I say it, and it's true, and maybe this will be on my tombstone, more football is good football. And I won't have a tombstone because I'm going to be cremated, and my ashes will be spread all over AT&T Stadium. I don't know. I have no idea yet. But I'm a little bummed out, and we'll talk to Andy Everett about this, not to bring him down on game day, but because there's two NFL football games tonight, that I believe is going to dilute the football viewing audience that would have been there for UTSA versus San Diego State in the Frisco Bowl tonight.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I think every fan of UTSA that's been there throughout the season will definitely be tuning in, and you know, there is the argument. There are a lot of people, Chris, that love college football and then can't stand the NFL. Like they just like college football. There's something, and so I think there will be maybe more people than expected that do tune into that game. But again, it is disappointing that they are pulling away those NFL fans who, you know, thought, well, there's going to be football on tonight, might as well watch it. And now we've got NFL football that they may be turning to. If anything, I hope they switch back and forth at the very least.
Yeah, a good football fan will switch to multiple games, and hopefully sports bars across the country will not only have Rams, Seahawks, and Eagles, Washington on their TV screens, but also have UTSA versus San Diego State. Before we dive more into football and everything that's happening this morning in the world of sports on this winter solstice, December 21st, let's look back at the games that were played yesterday and last night. We had two Monday games. That Raiders-Browns game would have been on Saturday, but the Browns had a slew of COVID-19 issues and players and coaches out, so it was postponed to yesterday. So the Raiders came in with a little bit of angst because they wanted to play the game on Saturday anyway. They thought the Browns should have just been forced to either field a team or forfeit, as Shannon brought up at the beginning of the season. That was going to be the NFL policy. Let's listen to some highlights from yesterday's game between the Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Throwing back shoulder. Edwards goes up and makes the catch. Touchdown Raiders. By far their best opportunity of the night. They hand it off to Chubb over the left side. Nick Chubb is in. Touchdown Browns. So here we go. 4th down and 5 for the Browns. Mullins. Nobody open at first. Keeps it alive. Nick Mullins lets it go. Touchdown! This one counts, and the Raiders have won it.
Raiders beat the Cleveland Browns 16-14. With the win, Shannon, Raiders improved their record to 7-7. What a crazy year for the Raiders. The whole John Gruden issue that they had to deal with, and of course, Henry Ruggs the third in that god-awful automobile accident that took the life of an innocent woman. But the Cleveland Browns, Shannon, with that loss, Cleveland now 7-7. Cleveland came in with such high expectations this year. And in a year, as we speak, the Cincinnati Bengals are on top of that division in a year where Pittsburgh's been kind of floundering around 500. I think they're a game above 500 right now, where the Baltimore Ravens haven't been the powerhouse they often are. And two of those Ravens losses came, as we've talked about, when John Harbaugh decided to go for two instead of kick the extra point and go to overtime, and they lose two of their games that way. But no Baker Mayfield last night. Nick Mullins at quarterback for the Browns. He was actually okay, if not good. Nick Mullins, 20 out of 30 through the air, $147, a touchdown, no interceptions for Nick Mullins. So he certainly managed the game well, didn't turn the ball over, but Browns fall to 7-7. That is not what they were looking for this season.
No, and you mentioned Bengals sitting at the top. The Browns were once at the top of this AFC North, and it's so odd now to feel bad for the Browns, because we're so used to, I think, feeling like giving them pity, right? Because they're the Browns and they just can't get right.
Yeah.
Now they finally got something going, and something like this just gets in the way. And there's no guarantee that had Baker been there and some of the other players that were missing on the field last night, that they would have ultimately gotten a win over the Raiders. But they'd like to think they would have had a better chance. They still hung in there, lost in heartbreaking fashion. But I feel bad for the Browns for a whole different set of reasons, and it's very strange. AFC North going exactly as predicted, sir. I mean,
yeah,
we all knew it.
Oh
Bengals
yeah,
the top.
Bengals, everybody. And it is kind of cool, after Joe Burrow had that tough injury that knocked him out of his rookie year
gruesome.
With the Bengals, and the Bengals, like the Browns, have been a hard luck franchise for the last several years. So I'm kind of enjoying the Cincinnati, because for so long that division, Shannon, it's either Pittsburgh or Baltimore, or it's Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And every year when those two teams play, it's for the division, and the kind of ugly stepchildren of that division are the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. So good for the Bengals, at least for right now. Bengals atop that AFC North. There was one other game last night that was at Chicago. Chicago taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Not a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination. Both teams came in under 500. Vikings came in at 6-7. Chicago came in at 4-9. Here's some highlights from the originally scheduled Monday Night Football game from last night.
From the Chicago 13 on 3rd and 5. Cousins throwing for Jefferson. Got it. Touchdown, Vikings. 3rd and 2. Cousins throwing, and it's caught wide open. Touchdown. Throwing, and it is caught. Wait for the signal, and they're going to say it was short.
The ruling on the field is a touchdown. The game is over.
Some interesting highlights. Vikings, Bears from last night. And Shannon, these are two teams. There were some people who thought that with Justin Fields at quarterback, the Bears could compete with the Packers and the Vikings for the division. They're 4-10. It's looking really ugly for the Bears. And the Vikings, with so much firepower, certainly offensively, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook at running back, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, who wasn't in the game last night. Vikings with the win. They're 7-7. Disappointing seasons for both of these teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. I mean, listen to these numbers last night. Justin Fields, 26 of 39 for 285 yards and 1 touchdown, compared to Kirk Cousins, who was 12 for 24 for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I mean, you look at those and you think, well, the Bears, surely they move the ball up and down the field quite a bit more. But, Kirk Cousins gets a rarity and gets a win in prime time and does it with just 87 yards on the night.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins, if I'm a Vikings fan, Kirk Cousins puts up good numbers, but we talk about his inability, usually, unless he plays the Bears, to win in prime time, and just he took the COVID stance. I'm glad I'm not a Vikings fan.
Have you heard the Lizzo song about him? It's a remix.
I have not.
Of Lizzo's "Why a Man Great Till He Gotta Be Great," and then there's like highlights of all Kirk Cousins' mishaps throughout his tenure with the Vikings. I'll send it to you in the break. I think you'll very much enjoy it because I want cool. that for you.
Thank you very much. So, all right, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, what's going to be interesting now because of this whole COVID thing, the Washington football team plays tonight against Philadelphia, and then so they're going to have 5 days before they have to play the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. And again, I shed no tears for the Washington football team.
We do not care.
They're still in the mix. I mean, you look at those whenever they put up the graphic on, who's on the outside looking in for a wild card. The Washington football team, they've got a shot still. They're 6-7. Eagles 6-7. So if Washington has a shot, the Eagles have a shot. This is in Philly tonight, Lincoln Financial Field. It's divisional. These two teams don't like each other. So the winner of this one is going to move forward with a legitimate shot not a legitimate shot, but with hopes of getting to a wild card. Loser going to fall to 6-8. I think that's going to pretty much shut down the hopes of whoever loses this game tonight.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier Washington dealing with some COVID issues as well. So that line actually opened at 2.5 in favor of the Eagles. It's moved all the way to 6.5 with the announcement of some of those players that aren't going to get to take the field for Washington tonight. So it's a good chance for the Eagles to get a win over Washington, especially knowing that Washington's going to be facing the Cowboys, and that might be another loss. I'm hoping and thinking it'll be a loss for the Washington team come this weekend.
And as we continue to, whenever something happens, you're a Cowboys fan, I'm a Cowboys fan, Dave Ayler, a Pittsburgh fan, but we still forgive him. The vast majority of our listeners are Cowboys fans. As we speak, and I know a lot of, I think because there's a 3-way tie, at the moment the Cowboys are in the number 2 position in the NFC standings. Now, they've got the head-to-head loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they both have a 10-4 record. However, by the tiebreakers, there's a 3-way tie between the Cowboys, the Buccaneers, and the Arizona Cardinals at 10-4. And the Cowboys win that 3-way tiebreaker with an 8-1 conference record, while the Bucs and the Cardinals have a 6-4 conference record. Now, Shannon, that's going to sort itself out on January 2nd when the Cowboys take on the Arizona Cardinals. If the Cowboys win, that means they'll have a better record than the Cardinals. If Tampa Bay keeps winning, then that would still mean Tampa Bay would take the number 2 seed. But a lot of developments over the last 24 to 48 hours regarding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First of all, they lose that game. They get shut out by the New Orleans Saints 9-0. In that game, Chris Godwin, we find out yesterday, a torn ACL. He is out for the rest of the season. A huge blow to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now Antonio Brown, who, as we know, Shannon, a problem child, apparently Coach Bruce Arians and this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team was ready to give up on Antonio Brown, as the Raiders did before, as the Patriots did after a game, as the Pittsburgh Steelers did after several seasons. The Buccaneers have found out what everybody else who has had Antonio Brown on their NFL roster has found out. He's trouble. He's not reliable. He's more trouble than good. Now, though, with Chris Godwin out and a slew of injuries, and the Buccaneers fighting to hold on to that number 2 seed in the NFC, with the Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals nipping at their heels. Looks like Antonio Brown is going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for the rest of the season. How do you feel about that?
I guess from the side of the team, other than it being a news story, I don't know that his antics, what have you, have played too much of an effect. I don't, the losses that team does have, I don't know that you can contribute those to, well, Antonio Brown wasn't on the field, because he's not that guy he used to be when he played for the Steelers, right? I don't think he's that make or break player, but given the news of Chris Godwin now out for the season with that ACL tear, I think they feel a lot better about bringing him back, because they are going to need him. They are going to need that production, and they're going to need him to step up at the same time and not be that distraction, and to really focus on the games left in the season and the games ahead in the playoffs.
Well, and just, the Buccaneers in that game, and as I mentioned, Shannon, I watched that whole game on Sunday night, and just Tom Brady, so much frustration. And again, it was the first time Tom Brady had been shut out since 2006. And there's video out there. At one point, he ran over to the sidelines, screaming at the interim coach for the New Orleans Saints, and a lot of people absolutely read his lips and feel that he was dropping at least one F-bomb, telling the New Orleans Saints interim head coach to go do something to himself.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday before this video really started circulating, of him doing, as you say, maybe saying some not so kind words to the stand-in coach for New Orleans, him sitting on the bench looking at that Microsoft tablet and then just throwing it in anger onto a bench, as if with the purpose of breaking it. Anybody else doing this, I think they would be scorned, right? Who do you think you are? Why would you do this to an opposing head coach? I mean, I do feel bad for the Saints coach. Like, it's not his fault he's in that position. And it's a football game. He's playing to win. And guess what? They ended up winning. So, if anything, congratulate him. It's just weird to see Tom Brady be so out of character and so upset. I heard that he showed up to his presser in his undershirt from the game. Like, usually Tom Brady comes out dressed to the nines, and whatever designer decided to hook him up that day, and he's Mr. Wonderful. And I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's got something we don't know about, because he was in a mood over the weekend.
Well, he said, and a number of the Buccaneers said, the way Chris Godwin was tackled and injured, that it was the collision with New Orleans safety P.J. Williams. While it was a legal hit, it was kind of a shot at the knees. And, New Orleans, has that history with Bounty Gate. I know that was a long time ago. I'm just wondering, and I don't know, I'm wondering if Tom Brady, felt that New Orleans as a team was taking cheap shots on Chris Godwin, and maybe even Tom Brady himself. Tom Brady was getting hit quite a bit. Clearly, Tom Brady was frustrated. And if indeed Tom Brady believed that was a cheap shot on Chris Godwin, that, as we now know, wound up ending his season with a torn ACL, maybe you add it all together. And Tom Brady's never been a good loser. Tom Brady, a lot of time, when he lost that Super Bowl to the Eagles and Nick Foles, he did not shake Nick Foles' hands after the Super Bowl. Usually when Brady loses, he doesn't go congratulate the other quarterback. Usually he's in a huff and storms off the field. And as you said earlier, if it's any other player doing that, you go, oh, come on, you're a sore loser. When it's Tom Brady, we go, well, it's kind of working for him to be this fiery and to be this locked in on winning and to be this angry when he doesn't win. Maybe that's the secret sauce, and that's the fire. I mean, we saw a lot of that. Michael Jordan, he's still holding a grudge with Isaiah Thomas, and we saw how Michael Jordan would not only use but even create out of nothing bulletin board material to fire himself up in games against opponents. So, it's just kind of seems to be the way Tom Brady is wired.
Yeah, and Tom Brady has to know at this point in his career, and given the success that he's had, and even though the Saints really had the Bucs number during the regular season, that a lot of teams are game planning a certain way that they normally wouldn't for anybody else in the league, right? When you play Tom Brady and then he has the weapons that he does, you got to come at things in a little bit of a different fashion, and he may take notice and in turn be thinking that, oh, they're trying to get away with something that maybe legal, but doesn't feel like a great sportsmanship move. But it's just so, I saw that video so often yesterday of him screaming at that coach that it's still a little jarring, even though he is that sore loser. We know he is.
And just one more a quick look at the NFC standings at the very top, Shannon, and we talk about this. It's important to peak in December, which so many times in the Tony Romo era and even in the Dak Prescott era, the Cowboys haven't peaked in December. As we discussed yesterday, they've won 3 in a row on the road, which they haven't done since 1969. Granted, the offense has issues that they need to work out, but the defense looks phenomenal. You look at the top 4 teams right now, your division leaders in the NFC. Green Bay Packers have won 3 in a row. They're 11-3. They're looking good in December. Cowboys have won 3 in a row. They're 10-4. They're looking good in December. They're going to take on a Washington team on Sunday that will have had 5 days rest because they play tonight. The other 2 teams who have won division or who are leading their division, Buccaneers in disarray. They've got injuries. They're not peaking. They're not looking as good as they did. It's not like it was last year where the Bucs were peaking in December. Now they've got injuries. They've got Chris Godwin out. Leonard Fournette was hurt. Antonio Brown with his fake COVID card issues and the fact that he's Antonio Brown. Tom Brady so frustrated. Are they going to be able to run through the playoffs and maybe go to Lambeau Field and win like they did last year? And oh, by the way, last year when they went to Lambeau, there were no fans in the stands because of COVID. And the Arizona Cardinals, they've lost 2 in a row. They do not look imposing at all, certainly not like they did earlier in the year. So, Shannon, at this moment, you take a snapshot of the top of the NFC, and it sure looks like the best 2 teams are the Cowboys and the Packers. How amazing would it be? I don't think the Cowboys are going to catch the Packers for the number 1 seed. I'd love it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But what if these 2 teams are on a collision course for the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field? And remember, last time they played in the playoffs at Lambeau Field, that was the Dez Bryant caught it game. That could be an amazing game ahead of us later in January.
An amazing game, a game that I mean, potential heart palpitations throughout the whole thing, because to do it at Lambeau, that is going to be very, very difficult, especially for this Cowboys offense who is still trying to find its way. As much as that defense has it together right now, that's a really tough place to play. It's even tougher in December, January when it's as cold as it is there. I mean, there's huge home field advantage for the Packers. With any home game that they have, but specifically in the playoffs. So just I'm hoping the Packers get tripped up a little bit here, because I would very much prefer the Cowboys get home field advantage and not have to relive the catch over again.
That would be nice. And man, it nearly happened against Baltimore last week. That would have been such a big loss for the Packers and would have really had the Cowboys right in striking distance of that number 1 overall seed. Coming up, Shannon's salty shakedown for a winter solstice 2021. This day in sports history, sports birthdays, and a big 8 o'clock hour coming our way. Taylor Estes, managing editor of Horns 24/7. We're giving away a pair of Valero Alamo Bowl tickets in the 8 o'clock hour, and Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA football, on the day of the Frisco Bowl tonight, 6:30, UTSA versus San Diego State. Pregame 4:30 this afternoon on Ticket 760 out of San Antonio. We'll talk all about it. Lots of sports to talk about between now and 9 o'clock. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Yeah, Jorge, my preseason Super Bowl was Packers-Chiefs. And if you had to bet right now, that looks good. Looks like it's going to happen. Hopefully not. Hopefully the Cowboys shock us All right. Let me see here. All right. Okay, what do I have left? I got all these spots because I'm not here tomorrow and they got to be in early for the Christmas holiday. So I did the Bud Light spots, didn't I? I got one more. Did I not do that? I did do that. Okay, so I'm good on that. Did you want, and I've got them done, I'm going to send them to you. I've got the big bit. Did you want 3 or 6 R&R auto glass spots this week? Did you tell? Okay. I've recorded them. I got to edit them. So I'll do that. I'll do that coming up.
Can Shannon hear me right now?
She can.
Okay. Shannon?
Wait. No, she is. Shannon, can you hear? She's on the camera, but I don't think she's got her volume up.
Anyway,
she may or may not.
I wanted to tell you an Aggie joke.
Okay.
You remember Laura Green?
I do remember Laura Green.
When Laura was on in the afternoon with Tim Merriman years ago, it was heading into a Longhorn Aggie football game weekend. They were taking Aggie jokes from college. I called in and told the joke off the air. Tim Merriman steals it and gives it on the air.
Okay.
Laura could not come back and do the segment because she was laughing so hard.
That's hilarious.
So this made it on the air, and I actually told this joke last year on the radiothon.
Okay.
Did you hear about the Aggie that broke his leg on the golf course?
Broke his leg on the golf course. No, I did not.
He fell off the ball washer.
Very good.
So there you are.
Very good. And for our listeners, David Munoz, ladies and gentlemen.
And my wife sent me this look the other day. Why was the reindeer comet feeling down recently?
Why was the reindeer what?
Comet, you know.
Oh, Comet the reindeer feeling down lately. I do not know.
His wife went to Las Vegas and flew $50.
Very good. Very good. All right. So now, let me make sure I've got this. And I do. And that's correct. Okay. Okay. That's all 6 right there. Okay. This is the second one. That's too long. All right. third one. Here we come, I do believe. Here we come. Richard, welcome in.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel show.
Yeah, Richard, we just need the Packers to lose a game, and they, man, if they would have lost that Baltimore game, that would have been so cool. Here we come. Little Beatles revolution for you, Chris Duel show. Thank you to Dave Ayler, our soundscape stylist, spinning the tunes. If you're just tuning in, this is the final show of the year that the three of us, the three Shonettes, is that our name if we're in Bill Schoning's band? I think so. I don't know. There were some others. I kind of like the Sats. Bill Schoning and the Sats. Or kind of like last night in the Pips. Anyway, I will not be here tomorrow. Paul Alexander will be here, which is always outstanding. Shannon doing the show tomorrow with Paul Alexander. Dave Ayler going on to his Christmas vacation. Shannon will begin her Christmas vacation on Thursday. I'll be back in here Thursday and all next week. So until 2022, this is our last show, the three of us together. So it'll be kind of a mix and match scorecard for the rest of 2021, but we'll still bring you top drawer, top notch, water your eyes, change your life, sports talk radio until the end of the year, and then into 2022 and beyond. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown is moments away. Want to remind you as well, huge 8 o'clock hour. Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. We are giving away Valero Alamo Bowl tickets in the 8 o'clock hour, probably before 8:30. Probably give them away right around 8:25-ish, if you want to know for sure. There'll be a phone number. We were going to make people sing Christmas carols, Shannon. That could still happen, depending on how that segment goes. We may make you sing a Christmas carol for your Valero Alamo Bowl tickets. We love public humiliation. Andy Everett, just after 8:30, the voice of UTSA athletics. This is it. This is game day, the Frisco Bowl. Can the UTSA Roadrunners finish 13-1, which would be absolutely amazing. We sure hope so. 6:30 tonight is kickoff. Pregame 4:30 with Andy and company on Ticket 760 out of San Antonio. So let's get this party started in a moment. The Salty Shakedown, but first, some sports birthdays, and this day in sports history. On this day in 1891, the first game of basketball ever played based on the rules created by James Naismith was played by 18 students in Springfield, Massachusetts. So December 21st, the birthday of basketball in 1891. That's pretty cool. On this day in 1941, the NFL championship game at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The Chicago Bears beat the New York Giants 37-9. They became the first team in the NFL championship era since 1933 to win consecutive titles. So that was a back-to-back for George Halas and the Chicago Bears. It was the Bears' 5th overall title. This is a beautiful day to remember. On this day in 1959, the brand new expansion franchise in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, signed their new head coach. His name, Thomas Wade Landry. This was, thank you, Jimma. On this day in 1959, Tom Landry signed and agreed to coach the Dallas Cowboys. He would stay with them until 1988, when a dirtbag named Jerry Jones, well, you know the rest. Okay. On this day in 1969, Vince Lombardi, who was with the Washington football team, coached his final game. Vince Lombardi had cancer. He would die of cancer in 1970. And I didn't know this. His last game ever was a loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Washington finished 7-5-2 on the season. Vince Lombardi's career, he won 105 games, lost only 35. There were 6 ties. A little ironic that Vince Lombardi, who so dominated the Cowboys as the Green Bay Packers head coach, his final game ever across the sideline would be Tom Landry and would be those Dallas Cowboys. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1926, Hall of Fame college football coach Joe Paterno, Penn State. He was the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year in 1986. Of course, his name will forever be tainted in the Jerry Sandusky horror that reportedly Joe Paterno knew about and did nothing. Joe Paterno was born in Brooklyn, New York. He died in 2012. Born on this day in 1954, she was once considered America's sweetheart in sports. Tennis player Chris Everett, 18 Grand Slam singles titles, a romance with fellow tennis player Jimmy Connors at one point. Chris Everett was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on this day in 1954. Born on this day in 1985, American racing champion Bubba Stewart, motocross racer, world supercross champion in 2006 and 2007. Bubba Stewart, born in Bartow, Florida. And finally, born on this day in 1989, Heisman Trophy winner out of the University of Alabama, Mark Ingram Jr., went to the Pro Bowl in 2014, 2017, 2019. Saints, Ravens, Texans, back to the Saints. Mark Ingram, born in Hackensack, New Jersey. I did not know that. Happy birthday, Mark Ingram, Bubba Stewart, Chris Everett, and Joe Paterno. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here is your winter solstice edition of the Salty Shakedown.
Chris, to kick things off, we turn to the saltiest guy in the NFL, one Bill Belichick. And he was mighty salty coming off of Saturday's loss, 27-17. Patriots fall to the Indianapolis Colts. His presser, just under 5 minutes, and we're used to getting kind of a chippy and short answered Bill Belichick following the press conference. So I want to give you a snippet of what that sounded like, and then we'll talk about his presser yesterday.
don't think we coached or played well enough to win tonight across the board. Everyone, all of us.
Listen, to me, that sounds like a normal Bill Belichick presser. It sounds like a normal Bill Belichick answer. That's just kind of the way he rolls. But I don't know. And between Saturday and yesterday morning, he had some time to think about it. He had some time to review his response, review his body language, review the way in which he expressed those feelings following that game. And Chris, he got up to the podium and apologized to the media. A rarity, something we rarely see from most coaches, much less Bill Belichick. I don't know if it's the giving season, but this is what he had to say yesterday.
To start off here, look, fellas, I apologize if, it seemed like I was a little short with you after the game. Obviously a frustrating game, down 20-0, didn't do anything well enough. I mean, there isn't really much to say at that point without watching the film. Clearly, we had problems in every area. So, there was no simple answer. And, every play could have been better. Every area of coaching could have been better. Every area of playing could have been better. And any of that would have helped. So, not really trying to be short, but honestly, there wasn't too much to say. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to say now, but it's not your fault. That was a frustrating game.
Wow.
Chris, his presser yesterday lasted 20 minutes, but that's how he kicked it off going into it. Chris, I know, again, it's Christmas season. Maybe he just felt in the goodness of his heart, hey, man, I feel bad about the way that I spoke to those guys. I don't think it's any different from anything he's ever done before, and I think he's probably done worse. So I don't know that warranted an apology, Chris. What are your thoughts on Bill Belichick apologizing to the media after the recent loss?
It's mind-blowing. A kinder, gentler Bill Belichick apologizing for his own behavior. It's almost like Ebenezer Scrooge waking up one day and realizing I've kind of been a jerk. I've kind of been a Scrooge my entire life. I'm Bill Belichick. Maybe the ghost of Christmas future visited Bill Belichick and said, hey, jerks lose their jobs. This is Urban Meyer. You want to be a jerk the rest of your life? Or do you want to apologize? Mind-blowing. I can't even wrap my head around Bill Belichick apologizing for being short and terse in a press conference to the media. That is, I mean, none of us had that on our bingo card for 2021. That is one of the more shocking developments in sports in 2021.
But good on you, Coach Belichick. If you felt the need to apologize and you did so, amazing. Hats off to you, sir. Just very strange as
high five deserving.
So award.
He could have gotten the high five today for that. That's crazy.
Yeah, sorry, I was selfish. Kept this story to myself. Moving on, keeping it with the Patriots, though, there is a man who has now been filed. He's been 5 felony charges against him this week. This all stems from when he impersonated a former Patriots player and tried to sell Super Bowl 51 rings as a member of Tom Brady's family. Okay, this is probably the crazier stories of Tom Brady connections. Tom Brady had obviously nothing to do with this, but we've seen in the past, people go into the locker room and steal his jerseys and whatever equipment they can get their hands on and try to sell it. This guy, Scott, who is now 24 years old, in 2017, used a bad check to purchase a Super Bowl 51 ring off of a former Patriots player. It had the initials JT on them. He then used that player's information that he got from the sale to contact the ring maker of these Super Bowl rings. And this is bad on the ring maker for not background checking this guy. But Scott called up the ring maker and said, hey, I need more of these Super Bowl rings. I was on that team. I need them for family and friends. I need 3 of them. And can you engrave Brady on them as well? No questions asked, apparently, by the ring makers because they created these rings. Scott then tried to go back to the broker that he sold the JT ring initially to. The broker thought it was a little suspicious because they had Brady engraved in them. So he didn't buy them, but they did go on to auction, in which for one of them, it was sold for $337,000, Chris.
Wow.
Of course, the authorities eventually came sniffing around. Scott admitted to the fraud, had pled guilty, and he could end up in prison for 92 years for all of this. Sneaky, scammy, and I don't even know how you come up with it to where it's almost genius, because who takes the time, Chris?
Yeah. Well, and it's a cautionary tale for people buying memorabilia. That ring auctioned for $337,000, a fraudulent ring. Who knows how many people spending big money on sports memorabilia, and if you're a crook, there's money out there to be had if you can forge some things. So let the buyer beware. That's just another story that should give us all pause.
And also, we've seen the gifts of Tom Brady every time he goes to a ring ceremony. He wears all of his other rings on all of his other fingers. Clearly, he's not out here selling them. So who are the idiots who bought these in the first place? You stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, finally, Chris, today we move to the Jaguars. Of course, they are not having a fantastic season. They are without their former head coach, Urban Meyer. The number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence has had some struggles. They're hoping that there is an eventual turnaround coming, and I'm sure if you're a Jaguars fan, you feel the same way, because at the Texans game versus the Jaguars this weekend, there was a Jaguars fan in attendance, sir, and we're used to seeing bags over the heads, right? Texans fans have even done it. The Browns fans are no strangers to bringing those paper bags to the stadium. But a Jaguars fan wore a toilet seat over his head at the game over the weekend. He even had a Jaguars logo on the lid, and then he wore a Jaguars jersey, and instead of putting a Trevor Lawrence name or some other great player on that team's name on the back, it just said "bad since 2000." Chris,
Yikes.
Is this a new low for a fan base? I mean, he's still paying money, still showing up to the games, but this is the outfit he chose to wear to the game: a toilet seat over his head.
I mean, the ultimate indignity used to be the paper bag over the head, but now the toilet seat attire, not a good look. Not a good look for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
If I had the option to wear the toilet seat or a paper bag, I'd probably go toilet seat just because of the breathability, right? I mean, there's no the bag, I think, would get hard. Your vision, I think, it would be blocked as well. So I think it's great in that aspect. I'm a little curious of how he was let into the stadium with that, right? Especially with the way stadiums are cracking down these days, because that's a toilet seat, right? I mean, you get upset at an opposing fan, you take that off your head, you put that seat down with that Jaguars logo on, and you just smack someone upside the head if they're getting too close or saying something you don't like. So I could view that as a weapon if it's used in the right way. But there it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown, as always, in this case for a winter solstice. I'm still Bill Belichick apologizing. And I think I've mentioned this before, and I forget the title of it. It was on HBO, so you could find it on HBO on demand. It's like a 90-minute documentary, maybe 2 years ago, of Bill Belichick and Nick Saban just sitting down and talking football. And these are like two of the guys that I am tired of because they win so much. And you wind up watching this, and you wind up liking Belichick and Saban more than you did before. And people who know Belichick say he's got a great sense of humor if you know him. So I don't know. Maybe there's more dimension to that guy. And again, he is the Ebenezer Scrooge of the NFL.
His heart grew 3
All
times.
right. Woo! Exactly. Coming up, we are going to talk Longhorns and more with Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. We're going to give away Valero Alamo Bowl tickets, and then Andy Everett going to talk UTSA with us next on the Chris Duel Show. Okay, now I need ice, but where am I on I got to edit one more spot, I do believe. Get my Santa hat right. Where was I on this spot? This one was the 6th one, and I need to cut it a little more.
Those done. Now I need
QC.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go get some ice. Ice, baby. Wes Perkins, welcome in.
Wes, I saw your Terrence Mann tweet. Yes, indeed. James Earl Jones played the role of Terrence Mann in Field of Dreams. That was a lot of Terrence Mann last night for the Clippers. Jason Paniagua. The social spot. I don't know where the social spot is. Fred Robert Casares Jr. Coming up in the next segment. Taylor Estes. All right. I'll be back in a sec. All right. Christopher Smith from Kenya this morning says the Longhorns are cashing in on the recruiting trail and stealing coaches from USC. Not that I'm bitter. Tashard Choice. Okay, now let's see. What more do I have to do with these spots? Okay, I did that one. So now I need... One 160. All right. That is Dave Ayler getting Taylor on the phone. Thank you, sir. Birds up, Fred. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is the winter solstice. It is the shortest day of the year. It is the longest night of the year as we move into the winter season, but it is always football season on this show. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Speaking of football, before this segment ends, in fact, when we're done talking with Taylor Estes about the Texas Longhorns and more, we're going to give away Valero Alamo Bowl tickets. So probably around 8:25-ish. So just a few minutes from now, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Valero Alamo Bowl, the Oregon Ducks against the Oklahoma Sooners. Speaking of bowl games, just after 8:30, we'll speak with the voice of the UTSA Roadrunners, Andy Everett, tonight, the Frisco Bowl, UTSA versus San Diego State. But every Tuesday at this time, we love talking Texas Longhorns, college football, college sports with Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. Taylor, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Chris?
I am doing great. And Texas Longhorns, for a team not being in a bowl game this year, making a lot of noise with the transfer portal, stealing one of my beloved USC coaches, Tashard Choice, recruiting. And I guess since we talked to you last, maybe the biggest story involving the Texas Longhorns, and quarterback, always a big story for the Longhorns, but Casey Thompson entering the transfer portal. Does this surprise you, and what do you think this means to the program?
It does surprise me a little bit, because from what we had kind of heard from Casey, from sources close to Casey Thompson, was that he was willing to, kind of stick it out and go through a quarterback competition with both Hudson Card and Quinn Ewers coming in throughout the spring. And, one thing that you can say about Casey is he's not afraid to compete. That's the one thing that, I know that a lot of people are saying that probably sounds weird now that I'm saying that, considering he is transferring. But I mean, this is a kid that's been on campus since 2018. He's been, kind of the guy that was never supposed to be the guy. And so, I think that it did come a little bit as a surprise to me. I thought that he would at least give it the spring semester to see kind of how the quarterback competition played out in spring football. And, one thing that Steve Sarkisian has said to both Casey Thompson and Hudson Card was, this is an open quarterback battle. However, with the two of them having experience in Steve Sarkisian's offense, knowing the playbook, they do have a little bit of the upper hand and a little bit of an advantage over whoever it was that they were going to bring in. That was prior to Quinn Ewers, from Texas signing Quinn Ewers. However, I still think that is the case. So it does surprise me a little bit, hearing some of the quotes from, at Horns 24/7, we got Casey Thompson's dad, Charles Thompson, the former Oklahoma quarterback, on the record. And one of the things he said was that he felt that Casey didn't really get a fair shake, considering he, started 10 games, played in all 12 this past season, and, was the leading, touchdown, or had the most touchdowns of all Big 12 quarterbacks. And he just felt that, with all things considered, they expected Casey Thompson to have not necessarily be in a quarterback competition per se, with the job being open. So it did come as a little bit of a surprise. I thought that he would at least give it the spring, see how this played out. But one thing with Casey, he did graduate, so he does, he still has 2 years of eligibility. He got his degree from the University of Texas, and I feel like, some Texas fans may be down on him a little bit right now, but I feel he did, give his all in Texas. So, I personally, hope he goes somewhere and excels, no doubt about it, because he's a good kid. And, I've covered him since he was a recruit. I always really liked Casey, but yeah, it did come a little bit as a surprise to me.
Taylor, when we spoke last week, we knew about Quinn Ewers making his decision and deciding that he would come to the University of Texas. It was made official on National Signing Day on Wednesday last week. Obviously, he's the big name for Texas and the one that so many people focused on. But how are we grading the rest of the Texas signing class, and where are we with areas that needed maybe some more improvement or some new guys to really up this team and get them to where they want to be?
Well, I think Texas did a fantastic job, honestly. I mean, you have to give a lot of credit right now to Steve Sarkisian and his staff, not just for, right now in 24/7 Sports composite team rankings, their 2022 class is ranked 5th overall, and that's fantastic. But to consider the fact that Texas was able to secure that class after a 5-7 season, that speaks volumes, I think, of the recruiting efforts of the staff. I mean, when they came to Texas, I know a lot of people were questioning some things about, Steve Sarkisian that hasn't been a head coach in a while. And are they going to be able to pull the type of guys, to Texas that, Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, Jeff Banks were able to pull to Alabama. And I think one of the positions that you have to look at that Texas really succeeded in securing some really solid talent is the offensive line. And I don't know when the last time I have said that. I think that under Tom Herman, Texas signed some really solid recruiting classes. But even back when I, would go back to that, I would always question, where's the beef? Where are the big guys or the big humans, as Steve Sarkisian likes to call them? Texas was really good at finding skill players, but they really missed on a lot of the state's top offensive line talent, especially. And that's something that Texas didn't necessarily miss on. I mean, the addition of Calvin Banks, a 5-star offensive tackle out of Humboldt, Texas, Summer Creek High School there. I mean, that was a huge get for Texas, but the list goes on. I mean, he's I think the bell cow a little bit of the offensive line signing class, but the list goes on with how, many solid guys that Texas was able to secure on the offensive line. And that's been one of the biggest issues for Texas. I mean, the fact that, the only 2 offensive linemen that Texas has seen go to or get drafted in the NFL since 2008 were both really low 3-star kind of diamond in the rough guys, and Connor Williams and Sam Cosmi. And the fact that Texas has really kind of the borders of the state have been open for other schools to poach some of the state's top offensive line talent. That's been an issue for not just Tom Herman and co, but, dating back to Charlie Strong, dating back to Mac Brown. I mean, the offensive line recruiting at Texas has really been subpar at best, I would say. And so the fact that Texas and Kyle Flood, you have to give him a lot of credit, the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator for Steve Sarkisian, he was really instrumental in securing this class. I think that's the biggest takeaway. I mean, obviously, adding Quinn Ewers is huge, and I don't want to, disregard that by any means, but I feel like what Texas was able to add to the offensive line in the 2022 early signing period is something that Texas fans need to take as a huge win, because that's been a position of need for Texas for literally over a decade, I feel like. And so, that's weird to say that I'm saying that Texas has a great offensive line class. I've never said that in my career, literally never said that in my career covering the program. So, and that's 10 years, that I have covered Texas. So I think that that's where the biggest takeaway is offensive line recruiting. Now, when you look at some other positions of need, wide receiver, I feel like still is a position of need for Texas. They did sign 2, with the top one that they signed was Brennan Thompson out of Spearman, Texas. He's a 4-star wide receiver. They also signed Fabian Red as well, who's more of an athlete. I believe he will play some wide receiver too, but that's going to be a position I feel that Texas will continue need to, whether it's in the transfer portal or leading up to the February signing period. I feel wide receiver is going to be a position that they got to add a little bit more talent to. But overall, I feel like this is a solid signing class, regardless of the record. But the fact that Texas signed this class after a 5-7 season just goes to show that these coaches know what they're doing in recruiting, and it's definitely paying off for Texas.
She's Taylor Estes, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. And Taylor, as I hear you say that you have never been more impressed with the signing of an offensive lineman at Texas in your 10 years plus of reporting, what strikes me as well is the what we learned recently, the name, image, and likeness, the $50,000 kind of endowment, if you will, the money that can be made if you're an offensive lineman at the University of Texas. I mean, it's a whole new world order that we live in with name, image, and likeness. But do you think that had an impact as well on motivating some of these top-notch recruits to want to play on the Texas offensive line? The fact that you can maybe make some decent money doing that as well for the first time this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that it would be silly if anybody's going to say anything otherwise. I mean, it's not just, a one-time payment of $50,000 that offensive linemen are going to get with this Horns with Heart initiative. It's an annual payment for scholarship offensive linemen, so long as they are eligible to play. And that's huge. I mean, coaches right now with I feel like I've said this a couple of times on your show, but right now with the NIL situation, the NCAA not really mandating much of it other than making sure that schools are not physically paying the players. It's the wild, wild west. I mean, you can do pretty much whatever you want right now. And Texas being able to get, that group of donors that put together both the Clark Field Collective and then this Horns with Heart Pancake Factory initiative, that's going to pay dividends to Texas in recruiting until, if, I guess I should say, not even until, because I don't know if the NCAA is going to want to regulate much of this, but until if the NCAA, decides to step in. But up until that point, this is a huge move for Texas. This is a huge benefit for Texas. And honestly, I mean, it sells itself. The coaches can't sit there and say, hey, offensive lineman, you're going to get $50,000 the minute you sign on campus. However, they can pull up an article that says Horns with Heart is donating this money, and that's what's going to happen. So it really is a recruiting effort that is going to sell itself, and there's no denying that it's going to play, a role, I feel like, especially in offensive line recruiting. And from my understanding of this Horns with Heart initiative, this is just the beginning of, what they're trying to do here. So, yeah, there's no denying it, Chris. I feel like it would be silly for us not to point out that fact of it. I mean, shoot, if you think about it, these kids are on campus for 4 years, that's $200,000 that's pocket. So, there's no doubt that plays a role. And I think it's something that, honestly, as I said, I think that it kind of sells itself. It's not even necessarily something that the coaches have to sell, but it does help that, they do have a track record of developing really solid offensive line talent. And Kyle Flood with his time, as a head coach at Rutgers, and then also with him at Alabama. So, I think with the $50,000 plus the track record that these coaches have, I think that Texas is going to be in pretty good hands when it comes to recruiting. And then, obviously they have to develop it at Texas. But if this year one is going to show anything, it's that they're doing the right thing on the recruiting trail, and it's going to pay off, I think, in the long run for the Longhorns.
Taylor, Chris alluded to it earlier. Tashard Choice, after quickly being with USC, he makes the move to Texas to join the current staff there as the running backs coach. What about him as a coach and also being a former player makes him the right fit, especially when you've got Bijan Robinson, who has high Heisman hopes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime that a coach has not only, been successful as a coach, but also has played football, I feel like that's something that is invaluable a lot of times when it comes to position coaches. And that's something that Tashard Choice brings to the Longhorns. He played at Georgia Tech back in, his playing days and was a fourth-round draft pick in the NFL draft. He was drafted by the Cowboys. He played for the Cowboys, the Washington football team, the Bills, the Colts. I mean, he has a lengthy track record as a player, but also, I mean, he's done a really solid job as the running back coach at Georgia Tech for the last 3 seasons. And I think the biggest thing for him is he's a strong recruiter. I mean, he was the lead recruiter for 4-star running backs Jahmyr Gibbs, Antonio Martin, Janius Griffin at Georgia Tech. And I feel that that's, only helps, Texas, obviously. If you can pull those type of guys to Georgia Tech, then what can you do at Texas? And obviously the loss of Stan Drayton is huge. But he's always wanted to be a head coach. He's, with him taking over the job at Temple. And I feel, that was a big loss, but I do feel that Texas really made up for it in adding Tashard Choice. And especially, it's kind of funny, I feel like USC has been poaching a lot of former Texas players to, from the transfer portal and stuff. So now the fact that Texas was not only able to poach, a USC assistant coach, but also somebody on Lincoln Riley's staff, I feel like that's a win for Texas as well.
Well, yeah, and as a USC alum, Taylor, I mean, the fact that Steve Sarkisian had his history at USC as well, it just makes me wonder, what kind of a conversation Steve Sarkisian might have had with Tashard Choice, because Sarkisian was there for so long as an assistant under Pete Carroll and then as a head coach at USC. And, and I know you're from Southern California as well. And, for Tashard Choice, a Georgia guy who spent a lot of time in Texas, his time at North Texas, his time with the Cowboys, his time at Waxahachie. I mean, when you go to Los Angeles, and I'm assuming that Tashard Choice was there for a few days. I think he signed with USC on the 12th of December. You get to LA, and, for some people, you love it because it's a big city and it's Hollywood and it's happening and there's so much to do. But if you're not into the big city, it might not be the ideal situation for you. So, Taylor, I just wonder, given his perspective, Sarkisian having been at USC and now being at Texas, I think that maybe gave him a little more ammunition to talk to Tashard Choice, in addition to saying, hey, we got Bijan Robinson here. There's a good chance you could say you coached a Heisman Trophy winner in the very near future. I think all of those things probably factored into Tashard Choice's decision, I will say, instead of his choice to go to Texas.
And honestly, I mean, who wouldn't want to coach Bijan Robinson? I mean, look at what this kid can do. And that's going to bolster anybody's resume to say, oh, yeah, I helped, further develop this kid. And, I think that's a good point. Chris, I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it, but you're right. I mean, I'm from Southern California. I'm from the Orange County area, and I will be one of the first people to say that I'm not the biggest fan even of Los Angeles. It's a little bit too much for me. And so if you are, more of a Southern type of person, it can be a huge culture shock to go out to Los Angeles. It's just a different vibe out there. And, we like to complain about the traffic in Austin. Imagine living in Los Angeles. Anybody who has lived in Los Angeles will know that's a miserable situation that you have to deal with pretty much every single day. So, I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, but it's something that Steve Sarkisian probably did sell. I mean, as somebody who, he grew up in California as well, and he, as you mentioned, coached under Pete Carroll for a number of years and then was the head coach at USC. If anybody's going to be able to take someone away from that job, it's probably Steve Sarkisian. And so, when I hadn't heard that personally, that he did, that played a role, but now that you mention it, that makes a ton of sense. So, I think that could have been a factor as well.
Taylor Estes is the managing editor of Horns 24/7. A great follow on Twitter at Taylor Estes 24/7, and you can follow Horns 24/7. There is also a tremendous YouTube channel that you can go to YouTube and search Horns 24/7. Great video coverage and analysis by Taylor Estes, Chip Brown, and others. Taylor, as next time we talk, it'll be after Christmas. So on behalf of Shannon and me and everybody here, we just love what you do. You have just all year long been just such a big part of our coverage. We look forward to every Tuesday talking Texas Longhorns with you. So first of all, thank you so much. Secondly, Merry Christmas to you and your family this weekend. We really do appreciate what you do. Thanks so much, Taylor.
Oh, of course. Anytime. I always love talking to you guys. So thank you for that. That's very sweet. And Merry Christmas to y'all. I hope you have a great holiday season here.
Okay. Thanks so much. Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. Will it be a Merry Christmas for the UTSA Roadrunners? Will Christmas come early tonight on the night of December 21st? Coming up, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics, as he gets ready for the call. And thank you for talking in my ear, Dave Ayler, because I almost forgot. We're going to give away Valero Alamo Bowl tickets right now. So glad Dave and Shannon are here. Otherwise, I'd have screwed that up completely. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, what number of phone caller would you like to take, or for Dave to take, at 800-707-9760 for the pair of Valero Alamo Bowl tickets?
Well, we did number 15 for the Oregon Ducks. Oklahoma coming in at number 14. So we're going to go caller number 7 because I don't really care about the Oklahoma Sooners. Caller number 7. Caller number 7. The Valero Alamo between the Oregon Ducks and Oklahoma Sooners.
Calls coming in right now. If you're one of the early ones, hit redial and you can maybe get back in and be caller number 7. Phone number 800-707-9760. Coming up, let's talk about tonight's Frisco Bowl between the UTSA Roadrunners and San Diego State University, the Aztecs. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics, joins us next on the Chris Duel Show. All right. One more segment. Let me see how I'm doing on editing. What is that one? That is... Did I save that? I think I did. Now, one more. Okay. Dave Ayler grabbing all those phone calls. Gonna get Andy Everett on the line here pretty soon. Okay, I need... Dave's calling Andy.
Andy's ready.
Thank you, Dave. Dancing Queen, cool. And I'll probably ask you after Andy, if there's time, the name of the winner.
Who's in first place? Me. Tim Merriman.
Wow, very nice.
We're both 7-3.
Very good. I hope you win.
Yeah, hopefully the wheels will come off. I got UTSA winning tonight, but that was before I knew Sol McCormick.
Yeah. Wow. Here we come. Welcome back. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on game day, as tonight, the Frisco Bowl, UTSA versus San Diego State. Kickoff at 6:30. That means pregame at 4:30 with Andy, Everett, and company on Ticket 760. If you're outside of San Antonio, you can always grab Ticket 760 on the iHeart Radio app. Andy, Everett, are you in Frisco right now?
I am.
Well, so what are the accommodations? Do they have you in a Holiday Inn? Are you in a Marriott? Do you have the presidential suite?
Birthday time here. It's a Westin, so we've been up in the world.
Very, very, very nice. And of course, one of the big headlines for this game, Andy, Sincere McCormick choosing to make himself available for the NFL draft. He will not play in this game, but he said in his statement he would be there in Frisco to support the team. How was that received by his teammates, and how do you think that affects UTSA's ability or prospects to win this game tonight?
Well, I think every one of his teammates is about the prospect for him to make it to the NFL, because that's what they all want to accomplish as well. And it's every kid's dream to play in the show someday. And Sincere will have an opportunity to do that, whether it's as a player that gets drafted or an undrafted free agent. At some point, he's going to get that opportunity to show what he can do at the next level and get paid to be there. Plus, Sincere's already started his family, and I think he wants to make sure that he can take care of them. If you make a minimum salary in the NFL, it's $600,000 a year. So I think everybody's excited for him. One of the things that Rashad Wisdom said yesterday, they asked him about it, and Rashad and Sincere have been teammates pretty much, I think, since 7th or 8th grade, somewhere around in there. And he said it's been 8-9 years since we weren't teammates, and technically I guess he still is, even though he's not going to play. But Rashad's statement was, I promise you tomorrow night new stars will be born. And so I think that's the mentality, and we'll see how that goes, whether it's another running back or another player on offense or defense that gets to play because someone isn't here or can't play.
Andy, I love that
mentality from the UTSA team, and more specifically those specific teammates.
Unfortunately
But
for Vegas,
they aren't feeling the same way. The line opened.
UTSA favored at minus
2.5. It's now shifted the other way. San Diego State now favored at minus 2.5. How much of an impact does not having Sincere McCormick on that field cause for this game?
They say new names will be made tonight during this game for UTSA. What names are you expecting now that
there's a hole where Sincere McCormick used to be?
Well, I don't think that 5-point switch is just Sincere McCormick. I think there's other players that are not going to play as well for various reasons. And I think, Vegas always knows. Vegas probably knows as soon as the coaches know because somebody told them. And I don't think players ever care about lines, and those that do care about it love when they're the underdog because they get the opportunity to show off what they can do. Brendan Brady, last year, Sincere went to North Carolina for the birth of his child the week that UTSA played UTEP. And Brendan Brady rushed for 100 and something yards and a couple of touchdowns and showed that he can still do what he has always done. Now, Brendan's been hurt most of the year and hasn't had the opportunity to showcase his talents. But I really think he'll have a good game tonight. And he'll get 25, 20 carries. There's a couple of younger running backs that will probably get the rest of them. But I think most athletes don't bet on games anyway. And if they do, they don't really care. They're not supposed to, but I don't think they ever pay attention to lines. I think that's just what Vegas knows. And I was kind of surprised when the line opened in the first place that San Diego State wasn't favored because they're ranked 24th in the CFP. And even though UTSA is ranked in the top 25 in other polls, the CFP seems to be the benchmark. So we'll see. To me, Zachary Franklin and Josh Cephas and J.T. Clark are three of the best wide receivers in Conference USA, and I think all three of them are someday going to have a chance to play in the pros too. So maybe it's Frank's arm tonight, and maybe we also have to remember Frank can run the football too, and when he does, usually good things happen.
Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics, he will have the call tonight from the Frisco Bowl as UTSA takes on San Diego State. Andy, obviously Frisco a whole lot closer to San Antonio than it is to San Diego. What is your expectation for the crowd tonight? Will it be an overwhelmingly partisan UTSA crowd? Do you feel UTSA will sort of have a home field advantage tonight from Roadrunner fans who have traveled to Frisco for this game?
Yeah, I've been told that the game is sold out, and that's around 18,000 seats, and I would say it's going to be 80% UTSA. And there's probably some local people that don't care one way or the other that just support the game and wanted to come. But I don't know how much San Diego State can travel, will travel, or will make the trip to Dallas. And obviously, it's right before Christmas. There's still people that are weary of traveling because of the uptick of the COVID cases. So who knows how many people are actually going to make it from San Diego. I think they'll have some representation. But there's no question that there's going to be a big contingent of UTSA fans here tonight, and I know they've bought a lot of tickets.
Well, Andy, because of COVID, the NFL has had to shuffle their schedule this last week. We'll have some games tonight. Originally, it was going to be UTSA. Prime time, no other football on, and they were the game to watch. Your thoughts on the NFL kind of cramping this style of UTSA versus San Diego State tonight?
I'm not even sure which game is on tonight, but I think if you're a college football fan, you'll watch us. And if you're a gambler or if you're an NFL fan, you'll probably watch a little bit of the others. I don't think UTSA, that goes back to the culture pillars that Jeff talks about. We can't control that stuff. Just go play football, see what happens. Enough eyeballs will be on you. And I think, they're not going to ever say it, but I think they want to be ranked in the top 25 in all the polls when football opens up next year. And UTSA's got a lot of players who are projected to come back. All three wide receivers, a couple of tight ends. There's a couple of tight ends in waiting, 4/5 of the offensive line. They'll need to replace running backs. Frank Harris is coming back. Most of the defensive line rotations coming back. A lot of the linebackers are coming back. They've got a new kicker to replace Duplessis next year. So a win tonight kind of puts their name in the minds of voters when they're filling out their ballots next summer. And I think they would love to start the season when they open against Houston, ranked in the top 25. And one way to do that is to win tonight with the players that they do have. And a lot of those guys will be back.
And, of course, early next season as well, they go to Austin and play the Texas Longhorns. But first things first, tonight's Frisco Bowl. Andy Everett with us. Andy, throughout this season, we have talked to you about the magnitude of the games that were to be played. The opener at Illinois, Big Ten team on the road. It was a huge game. Obviously, they won it. At Memphis was a huge game for the Roadrunners. You know, there were some games this season, even in the regular season, that, you said one of the biggest games in program history. At Louisiana Tech was a big one. UTSA had not had success there. Versus UAB was a big one. And obviously, most recently, Western Kentucky for the Conference USA Championship game could have been argued as the biggest game in program history. The one thing that these UTSA Roadrunners and Jeff Traylor have yet to do is win a bowl game. Given that, Andy, what is the magnitude of tonight's game in program history, and how big would it be to win this bowl game tonight for UTSA?
Well, I think the one thing that's most helpful is that it's been 17 days since the conference championship game, or 18, and I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because I look at the UAB win and the emotion that was spent in that win. And I don't think UTSA had anything left in the tank for North Texas. And you can talk all you want about how great North Texas was, and they were playing for a bowl game, and they were the hungry team, and UTSA was the prosperous team. But I've been watching football for 50 years, and when a team spends that much emotion in a game, and then has to turn right around next week and play a team that's definitely had an inferior year, they usually struggle, if not lose. I've seen it with all the teams, the Alabamas, the Oklahomas, the Texas. It happens all the time. And then I think the same thing could be said about the Western Kentucky win. That game, they spent a tremendous amount of emotion and energy winning that football game. And fortunately, they've had 18 days off to regroup. And so that, to me, gives them to be able to recreate that emotion and to hopefully win this game. 13-1 is a lot better than 12-2. And there's not going to be very many, if any, undefeated teams at the end of the year. Cincinnati's going to have to win twice. They're the only one left. And there's probably only going to be a couple of teams with one loss. And so from that standpoint, I think UTSA is excited to be in that group, to be able to say, yeah, the national champion, whoever that was, lost one game, and so did we. And not that you're going to compare yourself to Georgia or Alabama or Michigan, and probably couldn't beat them unless it was one of those miracle days. At least you could say you had the same record that they do. So from that standpoint, and all those things I've said before, this is a game, football players like to compete, and athletes at this level want to win, and they're not here to lose. So I think this is a pretty big game for them in that manner.
Andy, was a big weekend in the golf world with Tiger Woods making his return, playing in the PNC Championship with his son, Charlie. They closed out with 11 straight birdies, but they end up finishing in second place. Did you get a chance to watch, and what do you make of his return now that we've seen it?
Yeah, I saw quite a bit of it. I think his golf swing is fine. The problem that he has now is to rebuild his stamina, to be able to get in golf shape, to be able to walk 18 holes a day, 4 straight days in a row, and probably a 5th day to play in the Pro-Am, because stars of his magnitude are usually required to play in Pro-Ams. I don't think I would be surprised if we see him before March. We could potentially see him at San Diego, and I think he'll show up in L.A., part of the festivities of that tournament, but I doubt that he'll play. Riviera is not necessarily a flat golf course. It is in some places, but there's some hills you got to climb there. And so I think he'll kind of pick and choose his spots. I think everybody would love to see him at the Masters, but I'm not sure that he's 100% yet, in fact, I know he's not. And he's been said he was tired after the Wednesday Pro-Am. He was tired after the Saturday and Sunday rounds, and he's riding in a golf cart. And you could tell he was limping a little bit, and that leg was still pretty weak. So I think golf swing-wise, he's in good shape. PGA Tour tournament-wise, he's 2 or 3 months at least away. And hopefully we see him at maybe Bay Hill or the Players' Championship or the Masters somewhere around in March or April.
Final question, Andy. Gut feeling tonight. I mean, you have been on the call for every single UTSA football game. What does your gut tell you? What's going to happen tonight? Who's going to win?
Well, I think for UTSA to win, they have to run the football, and I think Brendan Brady will have a great game. I think this is his swan song. This is probably the last game he may ever play, and I think he's going to have a terrific night. And I think if he's successful and that offensive line is successful, UTSA will win the game. I kind of think that Frank Harris has to run the football too. I think that's important. And so I'm looking at this game. I think UTSA is going to have to score in the 30s to win. I think this is like a 35-31 game, and whoever has the ball last gets 35. So I'm thinking hopefully that's UTSA, and they squeak out of here by 4 points. One thing I want to mention, tonight's game, we start with the broadcast at 4:30, and the kickoff just after 6:30. Normally throughout the season, and pretty much every regular season game and conference championship game, UTSA's games are also online on GoUTSA.com, the iHeart app, and on TuneIn. And when you get to the bowl games in the postseason, all that online streaming of our broadcast goes away.
Ooh, okay.
ESPN events, and ESPN doesn't let us stream. So the only way you can hear it is on Ticket 760, conventional radio. So if you go to one of your sources online that you listened to before and wonder where we are, it's not because we don't want to be there. It's because we can't.
That's a huge. I didn't realize that, Andy, and I thank you for pointing that out to us. So, over the airwaves, the old-fashioned way. If you want to grab it, AM 760, Ticket 760 tonight. Andy Everett and his magnificent crew. They're a very entertaining listen to any UTSA football game. Andy Everett, what a season. You, as always, do such a great job. We'll talk again in the aftermath of this game. Best of luck tonight to the UTSA Roadrunners. Have a great call. Birds up. Have fun tonight in Frisco, Andy.
All right, sounds good. See you guys soon.
All right, sir. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics. 4:30 pregame on Ticket 760 out of San Antonio. Kickoff just after 6:30. Dave Ayler, before we sign off here, who won the Valero Alamo Bowl tickets?
James Durand.
James Durand. His parents should have just named him Duran. Duran. I'm just saying. I heard them this morning. I hopped in my car. I had the 80s channel on Sirius XM. Reflex by Duran Duran was the first song of the day for me. Just saying. It's been a Duran kind of a morning. So I'm glad he won, James Durand.
Right, there you go. And I don't know if that's a good morning or not when you hear Duran Duran.
It brought me back to the 80s, which is good and bad. So Shannon, Salty Sweeney, and Dave Ayler, our final show together for 2021. It has been a pleasure and fun, and I look forward to 2022. And to both of you, a very, very Merry Christmas, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you. And Merry Christmas to you and Shannon, too.
Woo!
Yes. Have a good one, gentlemen.
Shannon will be here tomorrow with Coach A, Paul Alexander. That's going to be a spectacular listen. Tune in tomorrow, 6 to 9.
I'm looking forward to it.
Woo! Shannon, outstanding as always.
Morning.
We will be in touch. I'm sure we'll be texting every time there's a crazy event in college sports between now and 2022. Have yourself a great day.
You as well, sir.
Tune in tomorrow.
Thank you. See you on the other side.
Woo! Shannon and Paul Alexander tomorrow. Dave Ayler, you rock. Our thanks to Andy Everett and Taylor Estes of Horns 24/7. I will see you on Thursday. And again, Shannon and Paul tomorrow. Adios, amigos. Woo! Fernando Solano. Let's go, Roadrunners. Thank you, Fernando. Ralph Balderas. Christopher Smith from Kenya. Wes Perkins, an early happy anniversary to you. I am off to Fredericksburg to officiate a wedding. Thank you, Jason. And Jason said he's going to be there, and I know Steve Duraco is going to be there on Thursday from 3 to 5. We're doing a remote, and we're giving away front row seats to a Spurs game, which is cool. I've only done that once in my well, in the ABA, I did it a lot because there were empty seats, and we'd go down and sit in the front row. But in the NBA, only once did I have front row seats, and they're awesome. So somebody at the Twin Peaks remote, 3 to 5 on Thursday, Park North location, is going to win the front row seats. So think about that if you're in the neighborhood. Come by, you fill out a little sheet, and you could win it. Jesse Bratton, good morning. Thank you, Fred Robert Casares Jr. I am out of here. I got to take a nap before we go to Fredericksburg. Have a great Tuesday, great winter solstice. Shannon and Paul Alexander tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday. Until then, adios. Have fun. Be safe. See you later.